Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris BlueRaven. My wonderful guest tonight is John Savage. And John, we were yapping through the break there because we couldn't hear the break music, but now it's back, so that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I liked your singing the Brady Bunch theme. I thought that was really cool. I hope people heard that. So before we hit the break, we were touching a little bit about some of the stuff that was going on with the racism and stuff like that. And yes, thank you, Jerry. So Jerry was giving me a cue that the break was over. But yeah, so tell everybody what you wanted to wrap up with that. I know before we hit the break, you were kind of talking.
She said, this is not my America. This is not my country. And I looked at her. I said, you know what? Your country, my country, it's all one country. It's the same. Mm-hmm. And we need to think of it as our country. Not your country, not mine, ours.
Mm-hmm.
And she just looked at me. She was typical and just walks away. And it's like,
wow, no help. No hope, rather. And it's just strange. I don't quite understand that kind of programming. But you know what? I don't know what else we can do. Quite honestly, they're going to be that way. They're going to have to resolve it themselves. All we can do is be the nice people we are. But we can't be taken advantage of either. And the whole thing about everybody using the race card or any other card to attack somebody else is not acceptable. They're going to have to grow up. This is like kindergarten crap. I mean, I'm not kidding you. The behavioral patterns are immature, and I think a lot of that sparked from some of the Democrats out there. Actually, I hate to say it, but a lot of them are just being idiotic. Hollywood. I mean, I can go down a checklist of the weird that's going on with that. It's just like, very, very strange.
It is. If the spirit world is a very, well, let me rephrase it. The spirit world is very aware of our existence, obviously. If they know what's going on, what are they saying to the other spirits? Look what we just left. We just left a beautiful planet, a beautiful existence, and it's a mess. But we can't help them.
Right. And the funny thing is, which isn't really funny, but the irony behind it is when you leave, we're energy. We're energy in suits. Energy doesn't have a sex. It doesn't have a color. It doesn't have what people are using for discrimination here in the illusion of it. It doesn't exist out there. So why is this such a big deal here? If you look at it on the level of just plain science, physics, energy, consciousness, spirit, sure, you can take on the form of anything. But who's to say that black lady wasn't a white person at some point in the continuum, that she didn't have a past life as a white lady, right? Did they ever think of stuff like this? I mean, really, hello, McFly. Can you wake up and expand in consciousness and really start to understand it?
Exactly.
The matrix beyond it?
Yeah. Exactly. And that's where, when I meet people, I try to explain to them about the other side. About, we're all one. We're the same person. We're on the same journey. We probably met each other in a past life. We need to learn from our past lives. And if we did that, if we realize, hey, you know what? I was a slave at one time, or I was a murderer. Just acknowledging that will help the soul to grow. And if this person realized, hey, you know what? I could have been a white person. I could have been a slave owner. I guarantee you that person would have a different attitude.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's really about evolution and consciousness. And once they start expanding into their own singularity of who they are as multidimensional beings, I think they see their life simultaneously, past, present, and future. And also not only their lives, but they're able to access the database of their ancestors. With that comes wisdom and enlightenment. That's the bottom line. And all this, like I said, this stuff is just an excuse to complain about something. And you're right. Live each day as best you can, because it's not coming back. Every moment you miss, you can't recreate it again. It's done. It's over. I don't care if you have a time machine or not. You're not going to be able to get back to where you were. You've got to keep going forward and keep educating yourselves and keep ascending. That's the bottom line. That's the only way to get through this stuff. You can't live in the past or the false past or an ancestor's memory banks or someone's bitterness or a program. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's like I said, I think this year is going to be a really interesting year. Mm-hmm. For us on a journey with our souls. I'm just hoping that it comes out the way I hope it does, that we come out stronger, we come out with more enlightenment than what we have now.
I think we will. I do. I think
so.
that we were on the right track, so to speak. I think that there was a lot of damage done with the previous administration over the years. I mean, a lot of damage. Obama did a lot of damage. I don't think people realize how much damage he did and how much sabotage he did with this country. but it's starting to get recalibrated again, and that is a good sign. But still, there's a lot of work to do, and we have a global, it's almost like global awakening, but at the same time, there's people who are resisting and getting triggered, and there's all sorts of conflict going on simultaneously. So it's just about navigating above that as the spybird and keep going. We just need to keep going and supporting each other, and those who want to keep stepping up and ascending will keep ascending, and the rest can just do whatever they need to do. But I will say, I think there's going to be a split, big split insofar as tribes. You can call them whatever you want, celestial tribes, but there's consciousness, higher consciousness beings, and there's the ones that don't want to move on. It's like it's like a soul or a spirit that just doesn't want to move on. I mean, how do you get a ghost to leave a place? It loves its haunt. It likes its lifestyle. It's addicted to certain things, even if it's drama or negativity. How do you get them to break that cycle and move on?
You really can't, and this is why. I believe, and this is from past investigations, from EVP recordings that I received in the past, that a spirit will return to a location that brought them happiness, joy, and what have you. Now, the personality that you have in this lifetime does carry over with you to the other when you pass over. You become a ghost. So if you're a real dick, excuse my French, you're going to be that type of person on the other side. Mm-hmm. If you're a very violent, very greedy person, you're going to be like that on the other side. And most likely, you're going to find someone who has the same personality as you do, where you can go and influence them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have someone who's, rich and greedy, then, and you have a spirit that's rich and greedy, very has a lot of anger issues, just mean as can be, they're going to search out someone that has the same attitude and go hook up with them. And sometimes those type of spirits will attach themselves to a person and influence that person to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, trying to get a spirit to move on, I don't think you can do it in the sense that we've been led to, go into the light, go into the tunnel, there's heaven. I think on the other side, it's a whole different realm. Heaven is what we make it out to be. So if your version of heaven is, being in the mountains of Colorado, that's where you're going to end up by your choice. Now, you can have a medium come into a house and say, okay, you know what? This is really not your house anymore on a physical level, but on an energy level, it's still theirs. And they can live with, or excuse me, they can stay with the living in that house.
Mm-hmm.
But as a medium, we have the ability to either close off the energy so they're not connecting, or you can have the spirit rescues, the spirit guides come in and relocate those spirits and the energy of the house to a different location.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and there's also the aspect of that applies to people too, the living, so to speak, the quote unquote living, which are really the spirits and bodies. But sometimes people, their spirit has died within them. They're almost like ghosts in their own design. And this is what I mean by them not willing to move on in their state of being. They're just stuck in this rut of false matrices and can't seem to get out. They're almost like trapped in their own suits. And that's another thing. The dead are one thing, the spirit world is one thing, and the ghosts are one thing. But then when people become almost ghosts in their own bodies to a point where they're not willing to move on to the next level of their own consciousness and evolution in their own body, take it with them, that seems to be a big problem that I'm seeing here on the timeline. So yeah. I think that's what it is that people need a shift, and you can tell them what direction to do. You can tell them that they need more, whatever, affirmations, prayers, consciousness, spirituality, merge with source, connection, a relationship with the universe would be a good idea, or source. But these people really don't want that, and they want to live in this world. They seem to be happy in that world, but I don't think they're happy at all. I think that's why they lash out in misery, and I think that's why they're going after with petty arguments and hateful remarks and racism and this and that, because they're really miserable people. And they don't want to keep ascending. They don't want to grow. They want to. It doesn't make any sense, John. But it's really what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to the new soul theory. These are brand new souls that are coming in. Souls. They don't know any better. These are the new children of the souls coming in. They
They're almost
haven't
like entities. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
exactly. The souls haven't been around long enough to experience wisdom.
So true. And that's very well said. And with that comes old souls. And, a lot of people, you hear that word. Well, back in the old days, it used to be used more often. I don't hear it anymore. Once again, this is another word I don't hear. Old
Yeah.
souls, old spirits, ancient ones, the ones that have been around for a long time on and off planet. Lots of ancient history. You're an old soul. I'm an old soul. I know there are a lot of listeners out there. Old souls. We've been around. And with that comes wisdom, a lot of wisdom and an assessment on things and around the world that we can see through such a high spectrum that most people don't even understand that spectrum.
Exactly. Now, one thing I've noticed before I left Minnesota, before I came to Virginia, was there's been an increase in people taking a lot of psychic development courses, which is a good thing, which is really great. And it seems like the majority of them are female, which no problem. I mean, there's plenty good male mediums out there. But it seems like now the energy is being shifted towards the women's energy for mediumship, which I think that might be the key to bring back harmony, to bring back more control in this world. Now coming down here to Virginia, I haven't seen any mediumship groups down here at all.
Oh, really?
Which I'm really surprised. But then again, we are on the East Coast. So something's going to happen. And like I said, I'm hoping for the best.
Well, I hope for the best too, but what I think needs to happen is a mass deprogramming from the false matrix and the social engineering. I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying that there's a great majority that still aren't understanding things because they are completely programmed and indoctrinated into this matrix that they cannot escape from. And the only way to get out of it is to be aware of it and to take your power back from it and to start programming yourself,
right.
Reprogramming yourself. So I see that, and I think the spiritual aspects are really good too. And yes, I think women have a great capability, but I also think that the men can step it up just as easily. And like you have, I mean, you're very balanced spiritually, and you're good. You're just a wonderful role model for a lot of people, especially people who are into the supernatural, paranormal investigations, because, we touched on this off air before, but we did talk about how some people out there are very green when it comes down to investigations. And that can be very dangerous when you don't know what you're doing and you're doing these investigations. You can't just waltz in there like you think that even if you're divinely protected, you still have to be very savvy and educated in this area. This is not a game when we're working with these energies.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, a lot of the groups that are out there right now, they have taken their quote unquote investigational skills from a lot of these TV shows. And right. It's like, no, these TV shows are designed for entertainment only. This is not how you do an investigation. Now, if you want to get into a place and pick a fight with a spirit, by all means. Go ahead. You're going to learn a really powerful lesson from it.
Right.
But a lot of these groups are also dealing with stuff that can harm them, that can follow them to their home, do horrible things to them, either changing their personality, make them do things that they don't normally do, become violent, angry, and they don't know. And if you try to tell these people, hey, don't go into a haunted location and pick a fight with them. Don't go in without doing a prayer. Don't go in without doing some sort of protection. If you're just going to go in just for the fun of it, you're asking for trouble. You are getting yourself into a lot of problems.
Right. Well, I think the same thing applies to extraterrestrial and the illusion of UFOs and things like that. I think that we have a very powerful military. We have a powerful Black Science Department, Black Space Program. Still, they're nothing compared to the firepower that's out there, and they know it. So once again, you've got something. Be careful who you pick a fight against. Be careful what you do, because there are repercussions on a multiversal and multidimensional level. And people tend to forget that. They think they're just in a linear world. No, we're in a very busy multiverse, actually, and everything is energy and particles and frequency and intellect, and sometimes it's entities, and sometimes it's interdimensionals and all sorts of other stuff. So we've got all sorts of stuff to deal with, and the spirit world is just one remnant. It's just one aspect of what's out there.
Yeah. And it also comes down to, experience with the paranormal. Like I said, a
Hmm.
lot of these people don't realize what's going on. They don't realize the different type of entities that are on the other side. It's not all, unicorns and gingerbread houses. There are a lot of lower level negative spirits out there that are waiting just for that one person to come along to do horrible things.
Right. And I'm almost thinking that there are some entity attachments that are trying to attach onto the host to help them transfer too. So, in other words, they want to hitch a ride. They want to hitch a ride
Oh,
when
yes.
the person expires. And I think that happens quite often. I think that it's something that's really needs to be looked at and maybe even investigated when people transfer, because I don't think they're transferring alone, John. I'm getting this impression that more and more that there are hitchers that are trying to get through these portals and through these ascension areas where they can leave. I think they're trying to leave and they'll do anything they can. It's like hitching a ride on a ship, you know?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, it's like, for example, let's go with someone who's an alcoholic, talking about hitchhiking. I call them walkthroughs.
Hmm.
Let's say you have a person who's an alcoholic, they go to a bar and they get totally plastered, and all of a sudden their personality shifts. They're doing things that they're not accustomed doing. Their personalities change, their verbal speech patterns change, and
Hmm.
then they're doing stupid things, and then the next morning they wake up, but they don't remember anything. They have that blackout. I believe that when the person is at the weakest point, another soul, especially a really a terrible one, a lower level one, will come in, push their soul either down or out, or subdue it to the point where it can't do anything, and that walk-in will take over the body and start doing things it normally doesn't want to do.
Hmm.
Become violent, become aggressive, start beating up the spouse, hitting the kids.
Hmm. Right. It's almost like entity possession, disembodied spirits.
Exactly. And I'm wondering, and I'm going to kind of tie it into what you're saying earlier. You have people walking around who are almost soulless, who just
Hmm.
don't care. It's probably because, the soul's not really strong to begin with. They don't have a good connection with the other side or with their surroundings. And these lower level entities see that,
Hmm.
see these people
Bait.
as prey,
Yeah,
and they're the
absolutely.
predator. And influencing them, kind of being that little whisper, you
Hmm.
don't like that person because he's that color, or he looks like that. You hate people like that.
Hmm.
Kind of keep feeding that negativity into that person who's already, doesn't have a clue what they're doing on a soul level,
Hmm. Right.
and who doesn't
Excuse
know
me.
any better.
Yeah, I think you hit it when you said that they're not strong enough spiritually or soul spirit. I think that is very, very true. I think that we have a lot of weak people. And I hate to say that, and I'm not trying to judge them, but it's an assessment that I think they're weak and they can be taken over quite easily. Beings like us are very strong and we are very fortified and light. And I think that that has a lot to do with where we've been and where we've walked on multiple timelines on and off planet, or our spiritual, our faith, everything. It just has so much to do with that. But that is something to look at. And also, a lot of that when people have addiction of any kind, it puts holes in the aura. If you have a drug issue or if
Hmm.
you have alcohol, it's going to tear holes in the aura. And with that comes you're opening up these little wormholes to create an extension for entities to come through and
Hmm.
attach on and feed off of your life force. So once again, and you know this, I don't have to preach just like preaching to the choir with you, but that's something to look at as well. And this is why I think healing, holistic healing, whether it's Reiki or whatever, is very critical to get your body repaired and the shields up.
Oh, God, yes, definitely.
Hmm.
Definitely. And even with dealing with the paranormal, I mean, you've got people who, again, inexperienced, they don't know any better. And if you try and give them advice, you want to do protection, you want to do some healing, you want to do grounding. If if you don't want to do grounding for an investigation, that's fine, but do grounding for your daily life will make a world of difference.
Hmm. Right. And what are some examples of grounding that you'd like to share?
Ooh. Oh, it all depends what kind of mood I'm in. Most of the time, I'll listen to music.
That's nice.
Um, Sometimes I'll do my tree meditation, which is I'll close my eyes. I will imagine my feet going into the earth and turning into like a root of a big tree. And it goes deeper into the earth. I can feel the grit of the dirt. I can feel the moisture. And I think of a crystal down in the center of the earth, the crystal of knowledge, the crystal of healing, a purple crystal. And I have my feet, my roots, surrounding it, touching it, holding on to it like an anchor. And letting all the energy that I have, all the negative energy, leave my body, go into the ground, disperse, and have that pure energy coming back up.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would
That's nice.
normally ground myself out.
That's a nice technique.
I will also envision a cloud above me with different colors, healing colors, red, like red, blue, green, colors like that, and let it fall down on me like rain.
Nice.
First it hits the top of my head, the top chakra, and it just slowly comes down like you're taking a shower. And as the energy is coming down, it's taking out all the negative stress. It's taking the negative energy that I've accumulated over the day, or during the investigation, the energy from the other side. And I'll allow it to, come off my fingers, that my body start relaxing. And then I envision a board in front of me, like a chalkboard. And I write down all my fears, all my stress, all my anger. And I ask the universe to please come forward and just wipe that away.
Very nice. Those are great techniques. People should really try those. Those are excellent. I always like the breathing exercises too. I'm a firm believer in meditation, also breathing exercises with you're breathing in light and you're exhaling all distortion, darkness, whatever it is, and recycling it with like a violet flame. I mean, these are really creative visualization exercises, but they're also connected to learning to master the mind and master consciousness and how we do have control over our reality if we choose to.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really big deal because sometimes people let go of their own reality to feed into the false matrix. And that's what I mean by when people get involved in all this drama that's going on, we've got to separate. You can't just get sucked into that vortex or that, I call it a gravity well. It's more like that.
Yeah.
Because this is much more, when you're feeling right in energy and your frequency's high and you're feeling light and you're feeling centered. I mean, I don't like being out of the Zen. I love the Zen, but I'm also a very Xena warrior oriented too, which is like, what a combination I am. I tell you, I'm... when I start going in that direction, it's kind of like hit the deck, it's but that's my nature. It's my berserker kind of mentality.
Yeah, I can see you doing that.
Yeah, it's my fierce nature. Well, you've seen me on Facebook enough to know that it's the tea kettle that goes off after a while, just I have a boiling point.
I just shrug my shoulders and go, you'll figure it out sooner or later.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's funny because I'm just I don't know. I can't even describe it, but it doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, I think that this is a good idea insofar as if something's getting to anybody, it's really about just taking yourself out of it for a second and resetting your own celestial compass or whatever compass you need to set and going to the next level, because that's what's going to keep everybody steady in the light. And of course, I like my martial arts too. And that's something I really enjoy doing is training. So I think that's a good part of it also. And I have to ask you, I don't know if we've ever touched on this before, but what about, we talk about UFOs and anomalies. Have you ever had a contact type of experience?
With UFOs?
Yeah.
The only time I've ever seen a UFO, I'm trying to think how old I was. Would have been 70, no, it would have been 80. Would have been about 1980. We were living in 29 Palms, California, at the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center, a big Marine base. And I remember looking west towards Big Bear Mountain, and I saw two white oval objects, bright white, and it had a small stripe almost in the middle, but in dead center there was a dark stripe, and it was just kind of just floating. There was two of them just off in the distance, and I remember looking at them thinking, well, that's weird, but that was neat. And I went in and told my dad. My dad came out, like he was a captain at the time in the Marine Corps, and he looked at it, and just as he came out, the back gate where the MP shack was, the gate closed, and they put the base on lockdown.
Very interesting.
That's the only time I've ever seen a UFO, and from that point on, I believe in them.
Right.
To
Yeah,
me,
that's something.
but I've never ever seen anything after that.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to get into the UFO side. I think there's a correlation between UFOs and the spirits.
Right. I agree. Well, that's
Uh,
why I think you should get involved, because you were looking for a different avenue. And I'm thinking maybe you can incorporate some of that as well, because with your expertise, you know what to look for, whether it's a spirit or a UFO. Anomalous.
yeah, I mean,
I know you probably don't want to. I mean, obviously, you have to. It's hit or miss with the UFO community. Some are really savvy, and others are just, I don't know what to say. But go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the UFO folks out there, and I just shake my head like, what's in your drinking water supply? It's, I just gotta shake my head. But then again, it's the same issue in the paranormal side.
Yep, it is. Anything like that, anything that's supernatural oriented, people, you have to be grounded in. Yeah, truly.
Yeah, and trying to find those good organizations that really care about what they're doing. They have a genuine interest in finding the answers. They're becoming very rare to find.
I agree. So if you want something done right, you do it yourself. That's my motto. That's why I have my own website, and that's probably why you do your own thing. Because, just do it yourself, because you know what you need to do. And that's something I don't see. I think a lot of people are going after mainstream. We're touching on the television shows with the investigators, with the ghosts hunting and this and that. But it's true. That's their role model, and that's their instructor. And that's like, you don't want to do that. You don't want television to be your teacher. Seriously. It's okay to look at a YouTube channel once in a while, but seriously, that's not the best route to take.
Yeah, get out there, and I tell a lot of the new groups, it's okay to ask questions. In fact, I want you to ask questions. I want you to get in touch with other paranormal groups who's been around for a while. Not groups that's been doing it for like a year or so, because they're still new. But look for groups who's been out there for 10 years or more, and say, hey, I got a question about this type of device. Does this really work? Does this type of investigation work? What do you do with your photographs? How do you take your photographs? What kind of documentations do you do? What kind of research do you do? What kind of training? Those are the key things to make a paranormal group successful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And with that being said, I have to ask you, have you done any or taught any classes, like workshops, or are you thinking about doing any online workshops or anything like that?
I did a couple back in Minnesota, and they were a great hit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just trying to find the right venue.
Mm-hmm. Right.
A lot of people, when they came into the class, they wanted more of the techie stuff than the actual research.
Yeah, that figures.
Which is like, it's great to have stuff, but a lot of the tools that are out there are not designed for the paranormal. In fact, there's nothing out there designed for the paranormal. A lot of it's just hit and miss and taking guesses. Will this work? Or will that not work?
Well, plus we live in a world where everything is energy. So even if you have a device, it's going to pick up on what? An electromagnetic frequency or some kind of a radio signature. Okay, but we're living in a world that's constantly like that, so you have to use discernment. And in the old days, the psychic would go in and be the divining rod, and you wouldn't have any of the technology. And I believe you do that still, don't you, to some degree?
I still use my dowsing rods.
Right. And it's just your own body as a conductor, because I know that's how I am. I mean, I'm like a little antenna. I used to be anyway before I was inducted in that covert warfare program. But literally, I go in and I know where everything is immediately without having instruments. I don't need instruments. I am the instrument. And I think that people lost that along the way. Back in the old days, it was about dowsing rods. I know my grandmother dowsed. I have dowsing rods. Things that are just old tradition, And people have kind of lost that because everything is more convenient with an iPhone or an application you can download, right?
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I fell into this bad habit of becoming lazy with the tech side.
Right. I get it.
The thing lights up and makes blinking noises and makes sounds. Ooh, this is real great. There's something there.
Right.
But it becomes, you rely on it too much. You start going, well, if I don't get an EVP, there's nothing here.
Well, have you ever put one of those in front of a television?
What, a EVP recorder?
Yeah, or anything like that, without the sound on, without anything, just or even without the TV on. But have you ever thought about scanning things that are plugged in, like electronics, appliances, to see if it gives off something
Oh
that's
God, yeah. I mean,
okay, okay.
I've got a couple of mel meters. I've got a natural trimeter, which is an actual scientific device that
Hmm.
measures magnetic and electric fields,
Nice.
and
That's good.
it's so sensitive it will pick up a thunderstorm 20 miles away.
Oh, I like that. I want that one. That's great.
It's a really neat, great device, and I use that more than anything else when it comes to meters.
Hmm.
But everything gives off an EMF field. Even when the thing's turned off, there's still power going to it. And
Right.
one of the devices that a lot of ghost groups are using, and you'll see it on TV, is called the K2 meter.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that one. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Isn't that ridiculous? I mean, that thing will go off with anything, though, right?
Right. I'm telling all your listeners, if you're into ghost hunting, do not use a K2 meter. That will pick up every stray electrical field in a
Yeah.
house. If you're in an old house that has the old um, cloth wiring around it, it will pick it up.
Yeah. It's true. I held one of those one time. It was going off, but that's normal. It's just picking up on my energy field, right? Well,
Yeah, it can pick up your energy field. It can also pick up cell phones quite easily.
right. Yeah. So you want a good. It probably. I don't know how much those cost, and that's another thing too. You probably want something that's a little more expensive. That's actually better quality.
Right. Now in saying that, if you're using the device as a trigger object, then I give people some leeway on it, but only under control circumstances. So you have to find a place within the house that's not near any electrical outlets, near appliances, almost like a dead spot. And
Hmm.
there's plenty in the house that you can go.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you have it there and you're using it as a form of communication, if there's a spirit here, please come to the table, sit with us, make yourself known. And if you start getting anomalies with the lights on
Hmm.
certain questions, okay, I can run with that. There's something else going on. But as long as you're documenting it, um, as long as you document that you have all your cell phones turned off, or even if you have inside a Faraday cage, which
Hmm.
I would prefer, um, that's better. And if it still goes off, then there is something happening.
Right. And with the lights, that's kind of iffy because, well, I know with you because you're actually working with the spirit world, and so when the lights go on and off, that is a strong indicator. And I have heard that in the past. I also know that people who do flybys remotely and covert intel do that too. So you have to be careful with the remote lights on and off because that can be manipulated by remotely hacking. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So that's interesting. You have to use, once again, it's discernment. But what you're doing is that chances are that actually is the real deal, and there is something trying to get in touch with you.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I will do in the house is I will tell the clients, turn off your Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
Make
Yeah,
sure
totally.
make sure your Bluetooth is off in the house. I wanted to eliminate all possibilities that I can.
Hmm.
Now, if you're working in an apartment or a townhome, that's really kind of next to impossible to do because you're gonna have signals everywhere. But anyways, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, those devices, you have to be careful.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I like about you. You really know what you're doing. And a lot of people out there have all the gadgets, but they really don't understand it. Now, if you can, download an application and it's very enticing, but at the same time, it's kind of diverging. It's a diversion to some degree. You want to make sure that you have the intellect behind it before you start plugging in all the other stuff.
Well, I have a rule in my group is that if you introduce a new tech toy to our group for an investigation, you have to explain it to me in
Nice.
detail what it does and what it can't do. How can things affect it naturally? Because I don't want to get to an investigation and have a client ask me, okay, what does that REM pod do? And
Right.
stand there and go, well, I don't know. This is our second time using it. Now,
Exactly.
what I tell my group is, if you're going to bring a new tool in after you explain it to me, you have 6 months to use it. It will not be a part of the official investigation, but we will put it through its test
Mm-hmm.
and compare it with our findings.
That's fair.
And if it passed muster, then we'll give it the nod and we'll use it. If it doesn't, you know, not going to use it. We'll find another use for it, or it just becomes a paperweight for somebody else.
Right. And how large is your group? How big is it?
The group back in Minnesota, right now, there's, I want to say, 14 people.
Oh, that's a good group. That's pretty
12 or
large.
14, yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know, I do miss my old group, but
Well, you founded that group, so who's in charge
Yep.
of it now? Is it just somebody?
one of the team members, I turned it over to them before I left.
Okay, but it's still your baby, right? Or no?
I still have my hands in the cookie jar.
Okay, I was going to say I don't think you'd fully detach from that.
Now
That's good.
I'm more behind the scenes now. You know, if they have questions,
Well, that's good.
I'll kind of help them along. If they have evidence that needs to be reviewed, especially like EVPs, because I'm the EVP pro of the group, they'll send it to me.
Nice. Very good. Excellent. And I encourage anybody who wants to connect with you or reach out to you. What's the best way to do that, John?
Best way right now is through Facebook.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't you or weren't you storm chaser of some kind?
Yes.
Are you still doing that or no?
Not since I've been in Virginia, no.
You're
Just
chasing the snow, though, right?
Well, they're talking about more snow this week in Virginia
Are they?
Beach.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness. Should I get you
means-
started on that or not? Oh, my
which
goodness.
means the school's going to be closed for another 6 days.
For a couple inches of snow.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous,
It's
honestly.
I just shake my head and cry and go, how the heck do you guys get out of bed in the morning without a helmet?
No kidding, man. Totally. Yeah, go to the safe space by all means. I can be so vicious sometimes. Oh, but I say it with love. I truly do. But yeah, so you haven't been doing any other storm chasing. I know, not right now anyway. Do you plan on doing that again?
Maybe next year.
Okay. Yeah.
I might get back into it, but right now it's more of getting back into the field of the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
I want to focus on that. I want to focus on bringing the history back to life. It's like the motto of my new group, giving the past a voice in the future.
Oh, I love that. That's great. You should actually put a book out. You need to get a book, John. I always encourage, I know this sounds like I'm always pushing books to everybody, but I'm a book nerd, okay, first of all. Secondly, I believe that people have a lot of knowledge. They need to document it themselves without somebody stealing it. And I would like to see you put a book out at some point. I wish you would do that.
You see, I would have to have someone sit there and write it down because I don't write.
Well, you know, computers, you can do the voice pattern and you just sit there and narrate and it'll type out for you, or, you know, there are technologies that can do that for you.
Yeah, with my luck, it'll be yelling at kids, stop it, let her have it.
Well, you get your own EVPs out there. Yeah, it's like a Siri from hell, right?
Exactly. No, actually, since you brought that up, I used to use a program called Dragon, speech recognition software, during investigations.
Oh, interesting.
Because what I would do is during an EVP session, or if I'm just going to, focus on one room, I will set up that program, hook it up to a microphone, and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And, at least walk far enough away from the mic where it can't pick me up, and ask questions like, what's your name? Can you tell me what year it is?
Mm-hmm.
Talking, I'll tell the spirit, no, please talk in the microphone. And when you talk, it will say words. And I would demonstrate. And I would use that also as a communication device. Now, I've tried it over a 3-year period, and now that 3-year period, it only worked once.
Oh, really?
Where a spirit and what was typed on the screen on the Dragon program was hello and the word no, as in negative, no, can't do it. And that's it. So, it got me wondering, was it the microphone not good enough, not sensitive enough, or, was it something in the program it didn't recognize the signal coming in from the mic? So I'm still kind of working with that, but I haven't really done too much lately with it.
That's pretty interesting, though. But when you've asked a spirit, what year is it? Does it tell you?
Sometimes it will. Other
Really?
times, other times it will say things like, I don't know.
Mm.
I will say I did one investigation in St. Paul, Minnesota at the city hall.
Hmm.
And I asked the question, are you aware it's the year 2002? I think it was 2002. And the reply back was, that's impossible.
Really?
Um,
Wow. That's interesting to me.
Now, what I do when I'm doing my EVP sessions and I'm trying to get a feel of a timeline is I will ask, who is the president of the United States?
Hmm.
And if they can give me a name back, that will tell me what time period this person is in, that they perceive to be in,
Right. That's
which would,
good.
which would be a critical part of the investigation.
Hmm. Yeah,
Now,
absolutely. And do you get that too? Do they give you an answer?
once in a while, I got one that said Truman. I've got one that said Taft.
Wow, this is fascinating. You know, you're something else. You ask the right questions.
And that's all part of the investigation.
Yeah, but some people don't know how to do that, John. This is what's so fascinating about you is you really understand intuitively how to communicate. And I have to say, to me, some of these spirits sound like time travelers. From what it's almost like you have a telephone line to something that's traveling like a traveler. You know?
Well, you see, and that's where I think, is there some, ET influence being done?
Right. Yeah, I agree. Because we are ETs in suits. I mean, we
Right.
are star people, and that equates to an off-world species. Really, if you want to get technical about it, that's what we are.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of the cases of the black-eyed kids being
Hmm.
seen, and some of them describe them almost as an alien, as the
Yeah.
Greys.
Hmm.
So, there is some crossover between the paranormal from the ghost side to the alien side. But
Hmm.
like I said, my primary is the spirit world. There's a lot of lessons that can be done that we can learn, that everyone can learn, especially with past lives, the Akira records. Um,
And also, it would be really nice to do something like that in like DC. I think I mentioned this to you before, or even the White House. Although I doubt you get access. But they're very in the old days. They used to be very interested in astrology and mysticism, and I think that there'd be very interesting energies there if you could actually do some kind of an investigation with the old presidents and things like that.
I would, but I'd be afraid to find something I don't want to find.
Yeah, I know. So many
Probably
levels to it.
probably find Satan himself going, I don't know. I didn't. This is not my mess. I didn't do it.
You know, it's funny though, because and I told you about the Saratoga battlefield. I've been in places where I felt spirits come right up next to me. And this is when
Mhm.
I was really young. I mean, been very, very psychic and didn't really understand it. But man, they're there. There's a presence there. There's energy, especially where there's been trauma or battlefields or, anytime they lose their lives dramatically, it's intense. And didn't you investigate some I don't know if you ever went to the Queen Mary or not. Did you ever go into any of that and look at the supernatural there or
No,
any
no.
ghosts? Okay. I don't know if you ever took a trip to see. I always thought that would be very interesting to check that out or some of the old ships, that they talk about
Well,
that are haunted.
one ship that I would like to check out is up in Baltimore, the USS Constitution,
Yeah, that
which,
sounds good.
which is the oldest active Navy vessel.
Hmm.
It's been I've heard rumors that it's haunted by some of the crew and its former captain.
Hmm.
Um, but that would be great to go check out.
Yeah, it'd be kind of neat. I think that'd be very cool. And didn't you go on? Did you go to the Titanic exhibit or no?
When it came to Minnesota, to St. Paul,
Okay.
yes, I did.
Yeah, I thought we had that discussion before. And didn't you say that you had like a character or something like that you go through and you take a piece of paper and they give you a character or no or
Yeah.
something? Yeah, I think that'd be interesting.
Well, there was one back in England. It's called the Hall of Justice, and I'm not referring to the one from DC Comics.
Hmm.
Um, it's a prison from 14 something, and you go in there, and they have a place called the Pit, and it's like a chiseled out hole into the rock bed, and they throw people in there. And going through this tour, they give you a piece of paper, and they tell you what your crime was.
Hmm.
And mine was stealing soap. And I remember holding the piece of paper and hearing a voice behind me going, "They're going to throw you in a hole." Well,
Wow.
we get to where this hole is, and I'll send you the link to this to this place.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Okay, who stole the soap?" And of course, I raised my hand. The American did it. He goes, "Right. Back in the day, you would be thrown in this hole. This is where you will die."
Wow. For soap.
For soap, for stealing.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And
Mm-hmm.
it's when you walked up to it, you could feel the energy coming from that hole.
Oh, I bet.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I so want to go down there. Let me stay down there for
You're
an
so
overnight.
funny. So you're a crack up. Well, I'm sure it wouldn't be so, but you never feel like, have you ever had an empathic energetic where you feel the pain of the person that died in the location of where they
Oh
died,
my
like in your
God.
body?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did a story with Care TV out of Minneapolis, again, my hometown. We went up to the City Hall of Minneapolis, and up there is the original jail, the courthouse, and they had the last hanging in that jail.
Mm.
And actually, the hanging was down in what's now the employees' lounge. Anyways, we got upstairs, and I didn't know anything about the haunting of the City Hall. And this was like some of the first couple of years of me actually moving to the Twin Cities. And I could feel a presence coming up to me and found out that it was the spirit of John Moshik. Moshik was the last guy who was hung for it was like $10. He
Wow.
robbed someone, they fell, hit their head, died. And it was also an election year too,
Mm-hmm.
with city officials. Well, the original story is that he was hung with a hood over his head. What they didn't say was he was hung twice. And I'm upstairs and I've got the Channel 11 camera on me. We're talking about it. And all of a sudden I'm getting sick. I'm gagging.
Wow.
And we had a employee from the Minnesota Historical Society with us who knew the whole story of John Moshik. And I'm explaining they're doing it twice. The noose went up underneath my chin, not my neck. I'm gagging. And that's what happened. They didn't set the noose correctly and it slipped. So instead of choking him, it started gagging him and he was throwing up with the bag over his head.
Wow.
So they had to reset it and then hang him again.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never felt so scared, so sick in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I mean, feeling what a person is going through when they die is horrible.
Right. Yeah, that's the most traumatic part is the transfer, especially if they've been murdered or something like that where they're hung. Yeah, so that signature, and look how long it takes. I mean, it's still there. It's still active for those who can tune into the frequency. I mean, what year are we talking about?
This was 1920s.
You know what's interesting? So think about all the trauma here from day to day that becomes the norm with violence. And you think about how that's going to get washed away and how many signatures we have broken around here. I mean, throughout the United States and the world with all the violence. And you have to ask yourself where, if people were to tune into all that, man, we're talking about a lot of pockets and black holes.
Yeah. I mean, there's other events that I've experienced. I've experienced being shot, kicked, having a heart attack.
Wow. How do you disconnect from that? Now, you're very empathic, obviously. Do you have a technique to sever that energetic so that you're not constantly being victimized by it?
Oh yeah, what I do is when I do my full body mediumship.
Okay.
I do my grounding. I've got my prayers that I do. I've got my breathing techniques. I also have someone with me at all times, and they watch for certain signs. I can still hear what's going on. I can still see. I can still do things and give off, signals that, hey, I'm in trouble.
Right.
So if something goes wrong, I have other members in the group, to pull me out. But I make that disconnect once I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
It's like turning off a light switch. And
Yeah.
then I'll go back into the regrounding. I will sage myself. I might pull out the myrrh and frankincense
Mhm.
and kind of bless myself off of that.
That's good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Nothing smells like a good Catholic like frankincense.
They copied the pagans, you know.
Yeah, I know.
They stole everything from us, okay? I like the
But-
dragon's blood, too. I always tell everybody I love dragon's blood. I'm really big on that.
But I don't let that energy stay with me.
No, of course
It's my choice. And once I break off contact, we're done.
That's the way it should be. Well, they also say, washing your hands will cut the cord too. And if you're a healer, if you wash your hands under cold water, I don't know if you heard that technique, that can also disconnect from your open, your palm chakras. So that you close your hands off to the energetic. And that's a good one as well. So little things here and there that help. And people who are very empathic and they work around a lot of people, if they're doctors, whatever, I think that's a nice technique to use. If you shake hands with people even, and I used to shake hands. I don't really like to shake hands with people anymore. But
what I do, and people kind of look at me silly when I do this, is, if I shake someone's hand, I'll use both hands.
That's nice.
Like I'm cupping their hand. What I'm doing is I'm trying to ground their energy out.
Very nice. That's an old-fashioned way of shaking hands, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Yeah, that means that's very sincere. Go ahead.
With some females, I would do hugs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if
and
they're
of course,
stressed.
everybody's like, "Oh, it's harassment." We talked about this before on my show, but I do think huggers are nice. I like hugs. I come from a hugging family, with the right people, obviously. But yeah.
Right. I mean, now in this stage, I won't do a lot of hugs. I mean, I'll hug guys, to pull that energy out.
Well, sometimes they need a hug. Everybody needs a hug. For crying out loud.
Come here and give me a hug. Come here.
Isn't it true? Doesn't it just change the energy, though? I mean, seriously, if you just get a hug, a genuine hug, it shifts the whole vibration.
Right. I mean, I find, at least, like I say, with me, I'll go with the hand. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll keep the handshake going for a little bit longer than it should be. And that's because I'm trying to drain, or at least take the energy away from them for a few minutes. Because
I can black hole. You're not an energy vampire, are you? I'm teasing you.
Sure, I am. Yeah.
No, you're not. I can tell you're not.
Yeah, I'm a vampire. Yeah, that's
People
it.
Like that.
Yeah, I'm going to suck the energy out of you.
Oh, you're here to suck the airwaves. No, you're doing fantastic. It's been a great. We're ready to wrap this up in about 4 minutes. I don't know what. In the illusion of space and time, but I want to make sure we get everything insofar as people, if they want to contact you, the best way, like you said, is on Facebook, right?
Yep, Facebook, John Savage, you can't miss me. You can also search for Minnesota Paranormal Investigative Group or Minnesota, Virginia Paranormal Investigators. That's
very nice. And it's wonderful to have you on. I'm really happy that you joined me tonight. It's been a while, and you need to come back more often so we can have more conversations.
Yeah,
and you can sing more Brady Bunch themes.
Hey, I was ready to sing some HR Puffin stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's really dated. What was the sound of that one? I can't remember that soundtrack.
HR Puffin stuff. Da 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 da.
Oh no, I'm gonna have that in my head tonight. Wow, is that with Witchy Poo, right?
That was with Witchy Poo and the Magic Flute.
Oh my goodness! Remember Sigmund the Sea Monster? He was funny too.
Yes.
Cute little character. See, we grew up with the nice, cool stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say it's cool, but it was cute, I don't know what they're showing kids nowadays, huh?
Electric Woman and Dinah Girl and what else? Speed Buggy, the Bugaloos.
The Bugaloos was cute. Yeah, that was a cute one. And I used to like the animation too. Like, we're out of time. Oh my goodness. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks everybody in chat. And make sure you stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dundramecki. Coming up next, the Sailing On to the Night from Down Under with their incredible show. They're going to be talking about hypothesis. So stay tuned, everybody. All right, John, thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And everybody have a great weekend. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye, John.
Bye.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed, people working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that, just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your